Welcome to a new episode of Unique Pathways presented by H3 Sports. I am, of course, your host, Ben Rekosh. Thanks for tuning in to a new episode. As always, today we are joined by Kyle Bogese, who is a former professional baseball player, former collegiate baseball player, and is the founder and coach at Backyard Baseball Lab here in Richmond, Virginia. A really cool facility. We get into some of that with him, some of his journey, some of the things on mentality and what it takes to be a great athlete. And then, if you know his story, you know that he got into a traumatic accident back in 2017. So, what it takes to recover from that, both mentally and physically, in one's journey to become a great baseball player, but more importantly, a great person on this world. So, really appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hope you enjoy this interview. It's a long one, but it's worth sticking around for. Really a lot of fun. Thanks so much to Kyle for letting me have some of his time on this great morning. Really appreciate him and really appreciate all the things that he does in connection with H3 Sports. So check out his interview if you enjoy it. Be sure to go back in the archives. We've had some great interviews to start season 3 of Unique Pathways presented by H3 Sports. And without further ado, I will get right into my conversation with Kyle Bogese.
Unique Pathways is sponsored by Piedmont Realty Holdings, building better together. Bellaterra Landscaping and Hardscaping Services. ECS Prosthetics, we come to you. Jeff Burton Consulting, charting your path to a successful outcome. Major League Mindset, results on and off the field. Blue Sky Property Management, own your experience. BSN Sports, the heart of the game.
Excited to have Kyle Bogese joining the show today. Kyle Bogese is a former professional baseball player, former collegiate baseball player, the founder and a coach at the Backyard Baseball Lab in Richmond, Virginia. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us today. First, I want to have you talk a little bit about what the Backyard Baseball Lab is, and kind of from what I can tell, you stand for similar things that H3 Baseball stands for, in that you kind of want to help in every way possible to serve communities and people from all walks of life, and you kind of take it as a responsibility of you and your program to help out people of various means through the game of baseball. So I just want you to talk a little bit about that as we open the show.
Yeah, no, of course, man. And thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. Yeah, I played in the Phillies and Diamondbacks organizations as well as independent professional baseball and a little bit in Mexico. Something that I noticed when I got done playing, that, I worked for other baseball facilities, and it seemed like you would show up for a lesson, throw, and then leave. There wasn't much on the, preparatory or post throwing to take care of your arm or your body. And that's just not how it's done in collegiate or professional baseball. So why should youth athletes be any different is kind of my thought process. So when you work with us, you have to foam roll, you have to do the lacrosse ball to kind of get your trigger points. You have to do a proper band warm up. Then you would do your throwing drills and pitching. And then afterwards, you have to do arm care to take care of your shoulder and your elbow. The whole point of it is to, try to, I guess, the longevity of your career is what's important, not the today only. Right. And I'm much more interested in having kids play for as long as possible to try to be able to fulfill their dream versus come in, throw, leave, and then get hurt, Right. So that's kind of how we started, or why I started my own thing. And then from there, all these kids knew each other. So we started some teams. It grew pretty fast. And then we're kind of getting back to training as the main, focus. That way it's more individualized and every person is getting the best results possible. But not just from the team or even playing in college. Like I'll call as many college coaches as I have to, but one of the things is like, hey man, if you can't make it, let me know. I'll pick you up.
Hmm.
multiple times. There's kids so I coach for a private school. They live 30 minutes away.
Okay.
Last year they couldn't drive. I went and picked them up and took them to school every day.
Gotcha.
That's like education is key. You can't play in
Right.
college if you don't get your education, if you don't have grades. And because it doesn't matter how good you are, if you don't have like a, what is it, 2.5 at a minimum,
Hmm.
you're not getting a scholarship anywhere.
Right.
If you're struggling in a subject, hey, I was good at math. I'll help you out. Anything else, you got to find somebody else to
Yeah.
help you. But, you know, um, I just want them to be the best versions of themselves and get the most opportunities possible. So, and when I found out about H3, I reached out, and Mr. Burton was super cool. He worked with me with some athletes, and it really worked out for them. So we have multiple athletes going to play at the next level with a combination of him and myself working together. And I think that, it's going to be a good a relationship there, and we can keep this thing going, keep giving kids opportunities to play at the next level.
That's awesome. And I think that kind of what you're talking about too is the ability that sports kind of have to transcend just the field or the court or the diamond or the ice, and impact lives, maybe more than just a game. What do you see in a day-to-day basis that kind of makes that come true?
Yeah. So realistically, I like to work from my own experiences when I try to mentor kids. I'm gonna give you a very brief, like, kind of uh, history on me. You
Yeah, and we'll
know,
dive into it a ton more. So,
yeah,
feel free
I
to say as much as or as little as you need.
no, it's fine. So, like, realistically, I got in trouble a lot when I was in high
Okay.
school. I did. I got kicked off of my high school team for lying to the coach. Rightfully so. Should have happened, and it did happen.
Hmm.
Right. I was given a second opportunity to play in college still. Never got in trouble again a day in my life. However, I try to learn from my bad attitude, my experiences, stuff like that I did, and say, like, look, this isn't handled the same way. If when you're in college, they just get rid of you. They're not giving
Hmm.
you second chances, right? So I try to help mold them for how, you know, not just in baseball though, like in life, when you go to a job, if you're not
Right.
acting right, they get rid of you. You're
Right.
replaceable at that point. And there's so many people fighting, like in sports, personally fighting for a position that it only takes one slip up for the next man up to come, take your place. Same is true at any regular job.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter how good you are, you know?
It's all
Um,
about the attitude.
exactly. And, I'm going through this with a couple of my players now at school ball. I'm not going to dive into those details,
Uh-huh.
but two of them are suspended for 2 weeks for attitude and for disrespect. But if I don't teach them that now, they're going to learn it at a different stage in life, and it could be a lot more impactful that could lead to something worse.
Right. So I was going to ask a little bit about this later, but because we're on the topic now, what are some of the things that you see in a person that make you think that this guy has it immediately? And then kind of on the opposite end, how do you instill those elements into certain people?
Yeah. So now, really quick, are we talking about from the athleticism standpoint, or more just personality
From the mentality
wise?
standpoint.
Got you. Okay. So one of the big things, like when they're playing, a lot of times it's almost like a feeling. It's hard to describe. It really is. But
Hmm.
when someone like has it like mentally and they're just a dog, they want to win. Like, one of the questions that was asked on a questionnaire for the draft, you know what I mean, when I was in college was, do you like winning more or do you hate losing?
Hmm.
And realistically, like, guys that have it absolutely hate losing. It's not
Right.
like I just like winning. No, like you hate losing. Like you can't stand it. And I answered that question wrong at the time because I actually had never lost a game in college up till that point.
Uh-huh.
And then I lost my first game, and I called the scout like immediately after, and I was like, I changed my answer. I changed my answer. I
Wow.
hate losing. It was so that, because I'm going to be honest, I played outfield until college, but I was throwing really hard, so they turned me into a pitcher. That
Uh-huh.
and the fact that I couldn't hit water if it fell out of a boat, if I fell out of a boat. So, um, you know, you just have this mentality of like, I'm going to win. I'm going to shove it down your throat. That as from at least a pitcher standpoint, you're not going to touch me. I worked harder than you. I trained harder than you. And it's people who sacrifice their time and maybe even like a little bit of joy, like they could be playing video games or, hanging with their friends at the mall because they see the end goal and they'll put anything in, like they'll put that in front of anything, you
How much
know?
of how much of that mentality is work ethic, like something you can build over time if you don't have it, and how much of that is just you're born with it? If you don't have it, you don't have it, and some people are just built different.
Yeah. So if in a complete honest answer, I personally think it's how you're raised.
Hmm.
Like for example, when I was younger, if I wanted to buy something, um, I had to do chores, right? Like I had to go pick
Right.
up the sticks in the front yard. I had to put the dishes from the dishwasher back into the whatever it's called. And it taught me work ethic. If I
Hmm.
wanted something, I have to work for it. A lot of times now kids are just given things and
Okay.
they don't really have that work ethic as far as like, hey, I want a new bat, you know,
Hmm.
hey, I need a new glove. But if you're not working for stuff like that, like, or, they're just given to you, you don't see the value of the hard work turning into success and the success leading to better play or performance. So I really think it's like how you're raised
Gotcha.
personally. I really apologize. My dad just walked in. I just got to see.
Put your registration.
Okay. Thank you. I'm on a podcast right now. I love you. Thank you.
You're totally cool.
Your MVP thing free haircut.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I need a free haircut. Thank you, Dad.
That's awesome. Free
Sorry.
haircut is great.
No, so I truly believe it is like I think it can be learned,
Hmm.
but once you're kind of catered to a certain way, it's really hard to break that, you
Got
know?
it.
And this is a personal opinion. I do think a lot of stuff is like spoon fed to people now.
Hmm.
Like and so that work ethic isn't there for everybody. Now that's not equal across the board. Some people have stuff and they still work really, really hard, you know,
Right.
and they're given stuff and they're still working really, really hard. But there's just there's a disconnect somewhere between like the the amount of effort that I see put in from people who are just given stuff and people who have to work for it,
Hmm.
you know.
That makes
Um
sense.
yeah. So again, I think it's a hit or miss type thing with person to person, but you can kind of get a sense on how they're going to be within the first week of working with them.
Okay.
And I've told people straight up like, "Hey, I don't think my program's right for you." You know,
Got it.
because if you don't work hard, you're not going to see the results. And one, you're not going to get better. Your parents are wasting their money, and it makes me look bad as a coach.
Yes.
You know, so I try to be as upfront with parents as I can when they
Hmm.
come to train with us.
That's I mean, I appreciate that honesty and I think that other people do also. I want to get into your program a little bit more in a
Yeah.
second, but I want to talk about your journey first. Growing up in Chester, Virginia, which is about 20 minutes outside of Richmond, I read that uh you played football, basketball, hockey, you were a musician, you danced. Um, so this is kind of a weird question, but was baseball your quote unquote only sport, or were you doing 10 things all at once all the time?
Yeah. So, okay. So, um, I'm ADHD. I'm extremely hyper, man. Ton of energy when I was little. So my parents put me in everything. Like, so baseball was my main sport. It always has been. And I would say it was my main sport, not like my only one, but it was
Yeah.
like the one I was the best at. That and basketball until everybody else grew and I stayed at like 5'11". Um, so But that being said, yeah, I danced. Yes, I'm a certified rock climber, certified scuba diver.
Wow.
I'm a third degree black belt in Taekwondo. I trained in Korea for 3 weeks with a grandmaster out there. I played hockey, basketball, soccer, football, and baseball. And if they had rugby, I would have played that as well because I always thought that was really cool.
Huh.
Lacrosse wasn't too big yet out here. I probably would have played that too.
Yeah.
But baseball and basketball were my I always played them every year, no matter what. Um, and then around 11th grade, it just became baseball.
Yeah.
Um, sort of. Um, uh, I broke my leg in 11th grade, and then 12th
Gotcha.
grade I got mono, and then lied to the coach because he asked me if I was sick because I kept having doctor's appointments, and I told him no, and then he found out, and I got kicked off the team.
Right.
So again, I'm trying to teach kids life lessons about one, lying to the coach or lying to people in general, even if it's because you want to play that bad. It's not
Got it.
worth it. Don't
Yeah.
lie. Right. So that was the reason. And then that plus bad attitude, I would throw my bat down, throw my helmet down, stuff like that. It wasn't a good look. And at the time when I'm in high school, I don't see that. I can't see that. I see right now. But
Hmm.
looking back, I probably looked like a little spoiled brat at the time. You know what I mean?
Right. While we're on the topic of different sports, and I really like getting people's perspectives on this, basketball, you kind of learn the agility and the footwork, sometimes the speed. Football, really physical, obviously, hockey as well. And then, of course, dance and music, they provide their own thing. So, what do you learn about yourself from each of those sports and your skill sets that you can kind of take and mold together a great baseball player?
I tell every single pitcher I have to take salsa. Every single
Hmm.
pitcher, man. Rhythm is everything. Timing, rhythm. It's almost like a build up to an explosion, when you're pitching. And the same thing, basketball for, like you said, the agility, great for infielders, great for outfielders, football, great for outfielders and infielders, just the side to side movements and stuff.
Right.
Catchers, dude, hockey goalies make the best catchers ever. They are not scared to get hit with the ball.
Wow.
They
Yeah.
block everything. And I tell you this from experience because my catcher in college was from Canada
Huh.
and was a goalie. Never played baseball other than a little bit of rec ball. But they specifically scouted him because he said, he was reaching out to places looking to somewhere to play baseball. And like they just did like a workout with him and he blocked everything. He was disgusting behind the plate. Like nothing got by him. Absolute
Huh.
wall. And so I think each sport you can relatively, make a really good athlete. Like for example, a wide receiver might be also a really good outfielder because they know how to
Hmm.
catch,
Very
right?
similar skill sets.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's good to play multiple sports, but I do think once you're like in 11th grade ish, you know what I mean? Or you're about to be
Yeah.
in 11th grade, narrow it down to your top one or two that it's like, I have a real chance of playing here. But as
Yeah.
far as like building up to that, play many sports because it's just going to make you a better athlete. I'm
Right.
5'11", but I've been able to dunk since 10th grade, right?
Yeah.
And it's solely because I played basketball every single year. I would spend hours a day jumping on a trampoline in the backyard just because I had so much energy. My parents were like, just go outside and don't come back
Yep.
until it's dark. like
Yep.
back when you were allowed to do that. I was in the backyard always doing that. And plus my brother dunked before me, so I got mad. So
Wow.
that's why I started practicing. So
Yeah.
um
I kind of want to go to that 11th grade year that you were talking about. Was
yeah.
there a moment for you that made you realize that baseball is the sport that you could possibly play for the rest of your life, and it's something that could be uh, a real chance that you would have to play at the next level and the next level and the next level?
So it was actually, I'm gonna be honest, it was in 10th grade. It was in
Okay.
10th grade because I was going to Blessed Sacrament Huguenot in Powhatan. It's a Division-III private school. I
Hmm.
think it's called D3, but it's a private school, and we would play all the other teams, and there wasn't a ton of, at the time, a ton of competition. I mean, we played Stewart. They were really good. Other than that, like, and again, this was at that time, just from my personal experience. Now programs have gotten better and changed over time. So I'm not saying anything about their programs now. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
But so that's why I decided to switch schools and go to the public school where there was a bigger talent pool to choose from for 11th grade. Over the summer, I had gone from throwing like 84, 85, like from the outfield to like 90 to 92. So going into my junior year, and I wasn't getting a lot of interest. Like, colleges weren't really like going to the games. So that's why I ended up going to a public school, and started doing a ton of the camps similar to what like H3 does.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, my parents they did all that. I didn't really go through anybody. There wasn't a lot of things like H3 around back then. I don't think there was anything like that. The only thing they really had is you can go to these events, they'll make a video and you can send it out to colleges.
Yeah.
For like an extra fee. So I went to one of those, and I wasn't really a pitcher, but I had broken I'm a year before you. So I'd go to those things. I did really well. After my junior year, because I broke my leg my junior year, I only played like 3 or 4 weeks of the season, and I couldn't play the rest of the year for Thomas Dale.
Got it.
I went there. I would go to these things in like a boot, like an air boot on my leg. And I would pitch as well, just because it was something else that was like, when you sign up, they didn't have like, okay, you're a PO, you're this. It was just you signed up and you could do whatever you wanted,
Got it.
So I did that, and I was pitching, and I never really pitched, but I was throwing like, 84 to 86. I think I touched 88, something like that, in between my junior and senior year. And I was getting a ton of calls from all these colleges about that. So that's when it was like, okay, maybe I should take this seriously. And then I was like, I actually had a full ride to Mount Olive in North Carolina. Yeah, they're Division-II. They won the World Series the year prior. So I was extremely excited. Everything paid for. And then
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then I like I said, I got in trouble. That kind of got taken down, and I was like, well, I don't even know if I want to play baseball anymore. I studied really hard for the SATs. I took a class and everything like that because I had mono. I couldn't do anything anyway after they take me off the baseball team. My mom was like, okay, well, just don't do, just focus on academics.
Right.
And then a school in Texas called Trinity University reached out to me. They're in San Antonio. They were top 10 in the nation in baseball, top 40 in the nation academically. I happened to do really well on the SATs. I'm going to be honest. I'm not that smart. Like, I'm smart, but I'm not that smart. I had like a 3.4 GPA. So I got accepted there. I was like, let's go to Texas. Everything's better in Texas. I like it. It's hot all the time. Like, you know what they said that got me to go there? And like, this is kind of like a little bit more funny. It was like, hey man, it's hot all the time. The girls are always in short shorts. I was like, you had me at girls, bro. That's all you had to say. Because I'm a high school kid, but that was the best recruiting phrase they had, man. So, don't tell my wife I said that. But no, it's so I went to Trinity University, and I played there. They had me full time as a pitcher, though. They didn't need me as an outfielder. And that's kind of where, my freshman year, I threw more than I have ever thrown my entire life.
Yeah.
Over my freshman summer, between freshman and sophomore year, I actually tore my elbow. And I had to get Tommy John. So they, I couldn't play my sophomore year, and I missed half of my junior year. And then when I finally came back my junior year, the first outing I went to pitch, I was 94 to 96 with an 86 to 88 mile an hour slider.
Wow.
And then I was like, okay. So I started training extremely hard. But the thing is, like, when I had to have surgery, I was like, okay, Tommy John can go one of two ways. I've heard really good things, or you don't come back. So I'm going to put every single ounce of everything I have into this. So I started watching what I ate. I started working out. I started doing the physical therapy like it was a religion, like every day. And like not just going through the motions. It was like 10 seconds up, 10 seconds down. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm throwing 10 miles an hour harder, you know, pitching. I ended up topping out at 97 in college at
And
a
again,
Division
that's all
three
about the
school.
mentality that you were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah,
You
it's
could
like,
Tommy John could have gone two ways physically. It also could have gone two ways mentally. So it's interesting that
yeah,
you figured out how you wanted to approach it to come back with even bigger success in your second year after playing a brand new position for a whole year prior.
yeah. And the funny thing is like it wasn't even a second thought in my mind. Like I wanted baseball. Like baseball is ever all I've ever wanted to do. When I was little, my parents let me watch Major League, which they probably shouldn't have, but they let me watch Major League, the movie,
Hmm.
and the wild thing throwing 102. I would take a tennis ball out in the backyard and throw it to my dad as hard as I could, so it looked like it was
Yeah.
fast. And you know, like even if like I was an outfielder, like I just liked the like how they built it up and like him striking the dude out and the guy falling backwards catching the ball, like that stuff's cool as everything to me. And I ended up when I was playing professionally, I was a closer for the most part. I started a couple games but like in like indie ball, but
Right.
the closer feeling, like the feeling of that of like you almost have to be a little bit crazy mentally
Hmm.
because like nothing can phase you at all. Like people are on base, no outs, you're up by 1 run. They cannot score. You cannot
Yeah.
let them score.
Hmm.
I'm not going to let them score. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm going to blow this fastball by you. Like you're
Yeah.
not touching my stuff. I'm better than you. I worked harder than you. Like you don't deserve to be standing in that box right now. Like that's the mindset you have to
Yes.
have. Even if you 100% don't believe it yourself, like you have to be able to make yourself believe it in that moment. And I loved that feeling. You
Yeah.
know, this is
Um,
bad. When I was in college, one time I walked the bases loaded so that I could strike out the side.
wow.
That was me, like because like I couldn't get the same adrenaline rush unless people were on base. As
But
weird as
that's
that
that's
sounds.
that's one of the things that if you get it wrong, you're gonna be in some
Yeah,
deep trouble.
yeah, don't do that. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. Don't do it. But like
Um, yeah.
my
You
coach
you
said,
talked
don't
a
ever
little
do
bit
that
about
again.
the academic side of Trinity. Besides all of the conference championships and everything that you won, all of the statistics that we'll go through, what were you studying at Trinity, and sort of what did you want to pursue with that?
So originally I was actually doing biochemistry. I wanted to do something in that field.
Huh?
Um,
It's not easy.
However, yeah, I found that out. I had like a 1.8 after my first semester, and I switched immediately to business finance. Um,
Okay,
Graduated with a 3.0, so it worked out.
very good.
Um, but yeah, I ended up doing business finance, which is fine. I'm good with numbers. It was easy for me. However, I really like the idea of like how the body works, how it moves. The
Uh-huh.
kinesiology kind of field is more what like while while it was harder to do baseball and that at the same time, that really interests me as far as like what I want to do. So I'm actually um I'm about to go back to school for my master's.
Hmm.
And it will be in sports management, but I'm going to be taking some exercise science and kinesiology classes as well.
That's awesome.
Studying for my certified strength and conditioning specialist, which I had. However, I did not do the continuing education, so I have to
Mm,
redo that.
okay.
Um, but I also want to get into neurobiology um, or neurology. I'm dumb. Sorry. But how like the brain affects how the body's working.
Right.
So, you know, with all this studying, like there's this website for like to study all the stuff for the test that I'd have to take. I found all these awesome books about that, about biomechanics, movement, like shoulder stuff, and I'm delved. I don't know. I'm really in
Yeah.
it with the books right now, reading everything I can. Because like one of the things about me, like I said, there's like a work ethic thing, but like I want to be the best. Whatever I
Mhm.
do, I want to be the best. That's just my thought process, right? Like I can't not think that way. And I don't know if it's something I've just developed from playing sports or it's just me as a person, but I want to know everything about everything so that I know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking to you, as far as from a pitching mechanic standpoint, from a shoulder health standpoint, from a lifting standpoint, from a recovery standpoint, nutritional aspect, whatever it is. I want to know everything so that I can give you the best results possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, quickly on before, which of the categories do you think that this sort of Mamba mentality fits in better of wanting to be the best simply? Is it not wanting to lose, as in hating losing, or is it loving winning?
No, it's definitely the hating losing.
Yeah.
It's the
Okay.
hating losing because you can love to win. Like you can just love it, but like when you hate losing, you will do anything to win.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like now, let me set aside, except for cheating. You know what I mean? So, but like as far as like the effort part, like you will do whatever it takes. You will sacrifice everything, like your whole body in the game, in that moment, because you want to stop them from winning because you hate losing.
Right. You kind of crescendoed at your 2014 senior year with the Tigers. Read off a couple statistics. 5-1, 12 appearances, 47 innings pitched, 3.64 ERA. Really good stat line right there. Going off of that season, did you know that there would be possible next steps after college ball? Did you know that there would be offers after you had that great season?
So yes and no. Like my coach kept telling me yes. I kept getting the questionnaires from, I think
Uh-huh.
it was probably something like 20 different organizations. Um Now, like, and then the draft comes and goes. I didn't get drafted. That's when I like freaked out. I'm gonna be honest. There was a
Mhm.
week of ice cream and crying, and then and then my mom was pretty much like, "Get off the couch. There's tryouts here, here, and here." So that day, like literally that day, I drove down to Mississippi for a tryout. I'm 94, 95. It was what do they call it? Um I can't remember. It was like the scouting affiliation or something like that. So there
Okay,
wasn't actually any scouts there. There was people that could tell scouts about what they saw.
got it.
So then I drive back home. 2 days later, I drive to Philadelphia, or I'm sorry, Williamsport, Pennsylvania, where the Williamsport Crosscutters are. I throw a bullpen there. I'm 96, 98. I
Hmm.
signed the next day for $1,000.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Was
I mean, I
that
was a
kind of
fifth
like
year
a
senior. So,
Was that kind of like a I made it moment right there when you signed with the professional organization, or did you know that you kind of had that hunger in you that you didn't get drafted?
so it was a really good feeling of like I made it, but I'm not there yet because
Right.
I'm just at the bottom of the barrel. You know what I mean? And like I don't know. I'm assuming you know this. I don't know if all the listeners know this. There's like seven different levels of minor league baseball. You
Uh-huh.
have like the Dominican and Venezuelan league, then you have rookie ball, then you have short season A, then you have low A, then you have high, then you have double A, triple A, then you have the major leagues. So there was a very long journey still ahead,
It's a
you
grind.
know? Yeah. And back when I was playing, like I know it's better now. You didn't make anything. Like I had like after they took out, insurance, clubby dues, where you were staying, food costs,
Hmm.
everything, you end up with like $200 a month.
Right.
So if you don't have the financial support from like family or anything like that, it is very, very difficult.
And
Like,
just kind of taking that off of sort of what you're doing with the Backyard Baseball Lab and what we're trying to do with age three, how difficult does that make it for a lot of people that really want to go to professional baseball, but they don't necessarily have the means to work through that experience like you're talking about?
yeah, it's really, really hard, you know, because, well, first off, just training in general is not cheap, you
Hmm.
know, any type of training.
Right.
And as a business owner, you know, obviously the first thing about business is the company has to make money, right, to stay open. However, there's some things more important than that. And if you can help people that like truly have a chance, I'm going to help them in any way possible. You know, one of the players that I used with H3, I don't say use, that's the wrong word, but like, you know what I mean? Like we got with H3 and we're able to help him and who's going to play college next year. That person could play professional baseball if they put everything into it. I 100% believe that. Just the natural raw ability, the dog mentality on the mound, you know, fielding at the plate. They hate losing. They want it on the field.
Okay.
In the gym, that's where I'd say that one person in particular needs to want it a little bit more, you know. Now, that being said, doing better with grades. Nicest human being I know. Super
and that
polite.
goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. It also helps because like you might have all the talent in the world and can't afford it, but I might not help you because you're not being a good person in general too. Like, you know, why would I want to help someone who's rude to everybody?
Yeah.
You know, that's not a good look, you know? So it's more or less like I want to help out as many people as I can play at the next level. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like there's a certain expectation too of like if I'm helping you out, like I want you to learn like from me, like, listen, man, there's like an etiquette that I require as well for you as a person. You know, and I think etiquette's the right word. Look, man, I'm bad with words. Just a heads up for
No,
everybody on here.
I think you're doing great. I think you're doing great. You had a promising start with the Phillies that we talked about a little bit, and then over the next 2 or 3 years, kind of bounced around different leagues and teams, sometime in Mexico, sometime in St. Louis, sometime in Arizona. Take me through the experience of playing with each of those and the ups and downs of just general minor league baseball.
So I will say the Phillies were so like, you know, I got invited to Instructs, which usually they invite like, you know, 3 to 5 people from each of those divisions to play on a team. And then they have the fall league for their guys that are ready for the big leagues next, essentially. So in Instructs, I did really well. I think I didn't give up a hit. And they said, hey, if you keep pitching like that in 2 years, you're going to be in the bigs. I was like, sweet.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was hyped coming into spring training. I got invited down early with the MLB players. That being said, they didn't. It wasn't like me in MLB spring training. I was just there with them.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see what it looks like because they're kind of trying to prepare the next. It was me and like 4 other people. So it was really, really cool that we got to come down early. I had a really good spring season. My last outing was 1 inning, 3 strikeouts, no hits, no runs, 1 walk, and I got released the next day.
Wow.
And that's when I found out that baseball is a business. So essentially in my exit meeting, they said, hey, listen, man, it's for AA. It was between you and a guy that we signed for $750,000 and the upper people want to keep their investment. So like the people that I worked with every day on the field, you know, the coaches, the training staff, the strength and conditioning coaches, none of them have a say. Right. It's the office people. So that kind of hurt a lot because I put everything. I was the first person to the field every day. I was the last person to leave. Like they actually had to ask me to leave every day. I was making sure I was noticed, you know what I mean? And I was doing everything. It wasn't just eye wash. And for people who don't know, eye wash is just going through the motions of stuff so the coach thinks you're doing something. Like I was actually putting in work all the time. I wanted the best sprint numbers, the best jumping numbers, the best squat numbers, deadlift numbers, everything.
It's the work ethic again and again and again. It comes up.
Yeah. And so what I tell people is from what I learned in that day is I know education is extremely important, man. If you get offered to play baseball out of high school at a professional level, take it. Because something they don't tell you is, one, they'll pay for your college online and you still get a degree. Hold on one second.
You're good.
All right, sorry. The principal of my school just called me. So, they will pay for your college. It's online, but you still get a degree. And let's say you don't do that, you can always go back to college. Your baseball window is very, very short. And the more money, the younger they get you and the more money they get you for, the longer they will keep you, even if you're doing bad.
Uh-huh.
So I know that's like opposite of what everybody wants to hear. Like, no, go to college, get an education. You can go to college after baseball. Like that doesn't
Hmm.
change, but you only get this amount of time for baseball. Plus, let's say you go to college to play baseball and you get offered something professionally and you get hurt in college. If you don't come back, you're done. If they draft you and you get hurt playing while you're in minor leagues, if it as long as it's not during the off season or in spring training, like they're required to rehab you and pay for your surgeries and do whatever they have to get you back
Right.
because else they just lost this huge investment.
Hmm. Take me through a
So,
little bit of your time playing it in a league like Mexico, where it's a foreign country, but you're still playing the game you love and you're still working towards that end goal of playing at the highest level.
so I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I lived in Yuma, Arizona, and we crossed the border to go
Hmm.
play because they didn't want us to stay in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
However, the cool part was the stadium was 100% filled every single night, and
Huh.
it was crazy. Like the environment is awesome, not in a bad crazy. It's just like
Right.
they love baseball.
They
I
do.
think I have more fans in Mexico than I do here. And by fans, I think like, that's just I'm just talking about my family here. But but no, it is awesome because like, I was considered a what is it called? Um I can't think of the word. Like a foreigner, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um so essentially you get I think I was like 3 per team. So
Uh-huh.
like if you're chosen to be on one of the teams, it's a big deal, you
Right.
know. It so either way it was fine. I luckily in college I took 6 semesters of Spanish so I could
Uh-huh.
communicate with people. Plus, when you're a pitcher and you're standing in the outfield in pro ball, shagging baseballs for half of a day, then like you just start talking with the other guys that are from the Dominican Republic or from Venezuela or whatever. And like, so I would talk to them in Spanish and they would try to reply to me in English. So that way they learn English and I learn Spanish.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
That's really
fun.
cool.
So, but I mean, I love the experience personally. My thing was like having to go through the border every single day. That was like that because that's like an hour long process
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. So I think that if anyone knows your story, they know what happens next. There was a great feature done on CBS in Richmond 2 or 3 years ago about your story. One night in 2016, everything changed when you were hit by a drunk driver. What, if at all, do you remember from that night?
So it's actually it was 2017.
Okay, my apologies.
No, you're good. You're good. Um, I I remember I was on the way back from it's called Schnucks. It's like
Uh-huh.
a Food Lion or yeah, food place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I went and got some ice cream.
Okay.
So it's the off season. I'm allowed to have ice cream. Okay,
There's a
but
theme with this story.
yeah. So I'm driving home and a drunk driver T-bones me and I guess they were trying to get into McDonald's or whatever, but I suffered a traumatic brain injury and I tore my right shoulder. So I went
Wow.
from throwing 98 to about 74.
Uh-huh.
However,
So,
on positive note, really quick, on
yeah,
Tuesday I hit 83 on the mound. Let's
that's
go.
awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
When you were rushed to the hospital, obviously there were so many things going through your mind, but what were you thinking in terms of continue? Was it a moment that set in immediately that it was like, this is it? I'm not playing baseball anymore?
So I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know I tore my shoulder. So like I went to the hospital, they did tests and everything, I knew my shoulder was sore, but I didn't really say anything about that.
Yeah.
So, they checked on me and said, hey, you have a severe traumatic concussion. Um, so, I had to start going to some therapy about that. I lost a little bit of
Uh-huh.
memory, but I had to take classes like speech therapy, stuff like that, and
Hmm.
try to learn how to remember stuff again. But then the next time I went to go throw a bullpen, like I went to throw, and like my arm just didn't feel like it was there,
Wow.
and I was like super confused because I went to throw the ball and I go right here, like to get up to get ready to throw, and it just like
Hmm.
wouldn't go forward. It just like flopped down. I was like, uh-oh.
That's got
So
to be really frustrating, doesn't it? You put your entire life into something and then all of a sudden, in an instant, you can't do it anymore.
yeah, so 2016 was the last year I played. I took that next year off to train because normally I was like 92, 94, touching 95 in a bullpen. And then when I'd play, I was like 94, 96, touching 97 or 98 every now and then.
Uh-huh.
And I took a whole year off to train and I was sitting 94 to 96, touching 97 in bullpens. So everybody was like, dude, you're going to hit 100 in a game because like you have that adrenaline rush. You have,
Yeah.
you know, it's just a whole different experience when you're in a game. And so like I was pumped. I got calls from a couple places. I was actually the next week. So there was the car accident, but I had already planned for the following week. I was supposed to go throw for a
Uh-huh.
couple of teams.
Okay.
Um, and then boom, that happens. Um, I I went to go through my bullpen before the next week, obviously, and then I had to call those people and be like, "Hey, look, I'm not able to do this. Something's wrong. This is
Right.
what happened. I'll let you know what the doctor says."
Okay.
So I tore my supraspinatus. So essentially, it is what controls your arm doing this,
Hmm.
and then also coming forward. So, an accelerator essentially.
Right.
And that being said, I can't put anything here. Like I can't pull it forward if it's torn. And they said it tore in half. It's not a baseball injury. They're like, this would not happen from baseball. It was 100% torn in half. It was probably from like grabbing the steering wheel and it being jerked in a certain way
Wow.
from getting hit. So um it just kind of stinks because like so in my mind, yeah, everything I'd ever worked for was gone. And I know I personally I believe I worked extremely hard
Uh-huh.
to get to where I was.
And
Because
that's
like
evident with your story and what you're saying here. Hard work definitely played a huge role into it.
and like the other thing too is man, like if you well, my old travel ball coaches, they're in Richmond, they know this like dude, I sat the bench, man. I
Hmm.
was not the best player on the team in high school or in like, 14U up. Like I was the
Right.
kid they put in at the end of the game, but I'm the only person on any of those teams that played professional baseball.
Wow.
And the reason why is because personally I believe I wanted it more.
Wow.
And I have a big sign in the back. If you don't want it, just let me know. And I was like, the
Hmm.
door's right there. You can go home at any time,
Hmm.
you know? And like I mean, like we had a kid that went to Clemson. We had kids that went to ODU,
Yep.
Christopher Newport, multiple colleges around here,
Uh,
and back in the day, I'm gonna be honest, I don't follow college baseball much as I did back then, but like Clemson was where you wanted to go
Right.
for baseball in like 2009. Like they were
Right.
good.
Right.
So, um, and then I'm the one who got to play pro baseball. So I obviously there was you know, okay, you have the talent, but you didn't put in what you needed to, or you maybe just didn't want to do that after college. You know what I mean? Like, so it kind of faded.
There had to have been a moment after you came back to Virginia after your accident that you either got told by someone or it set in that you had to figure out what to do now. Baseball isn't an option anymore, at least on the playing side. When did that moment set in, and what did you do after that to kind of keep that competitive fire going?
Yeah. So, essentially, when I got back home, I was kind of just confused. Like I was
Right.
lost is the best way to put it. Like I didn't know what my purpose was. All I ever did was, you know, for the last, I don't know, since, 10th grade up till I was 27. So let's just say 10 years almost was trained for baseball. And it was all gone. You know what I
Right.
mean? And like I got good grades in college. I got, good grades in high school, but I wasn't really paying attention. Like I just took the test so that I could play baseball.
Uh-huh.
That was my mindset. And just guys out there, that's not a good mindset to have. Learn your stuff. Okay. But, you know, I was extremely, extremely lost. And it led to a lot of depression
hmm
and some other stuff. A little bit of drinking. So I'm an alcoholic. I don't drink. Okay.
Okay.
So, and it, I got in trouble because of it. So again, try to learn from my life lessons. Like,
Right.
don't do this. It's not worth it.
Right.
Because, you know, realistically, my wife ended up saying like, so I was always labeled as a baseball player. That's how I labeled myself. Right.
Right.
And this is in the interview too. Right. I am a baseball player, but that's not true. Because when baseball's gone, who am I? You
hmm
know, I'm Kyle Bogese, and I just played baseball. That was a job, right? That was just something I did.
hmm
That doesn't define who I am as a person.
But that's a mindset switch, right? And that's got to be a
Yeah,
hard mindset switch.
it was hard, man. It was really hard to cope with that. To say essentially my beliefs, like my belief system is wrong. Like,
Yeah.
all of you baseball players out there, that's just what you do, right? Like
Yes.
that's just what you do. Any athlete, any football players, basketball players, that's just something you do. You are your name. That is who you are and how you act and how you treat people and how you help the world and the community. You know,
Yes.
that is not like you can't define yourself by what you do because one day that's going to be gone and it will lead to a bad path
Uh-huh.
if you don't know who you are and understand who you are as a person,
So
you know?
from there, you started the backyard baseball lab in what I think is a shed in your mother's backyard.
So, so yeah,
Hence the name Backyard Baseball Lab.
yeah. So I, with the settlement money from the car accident, I built a 75 by 20 foot, like 3-car garage. It's like 16 feet high.
Uh-huh.
And I started doing lessons out of there. It's got like one cage, turf, and a mound.
Uh-huh.
And then I turned her regular garage on the other side of the house. Like you have to go all the way down
Yep.
this like thing around the side into a gym. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, it blew up pretty much instantly. Like I had guys, I was booked. So I ended up doing
Wow.
group stuff. And then all these kids in these groups knew each other and they were like, oh, I know this kid that goes to this other time. Blah, blah,
Uh-huh.
blah. Dude, we should make a team. We don't like where we're at. Blah, blah, blah. So we ended up making a team and then that turned into 2 teams, that turned into 4 teams, and then all of a sudden we had 7 teams. Now I'm back down to one. I just have my one team.
Yeah.
I want to get more back into the training thing versus the team thing.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here thinking you started this thing around 2018, maybe 2019, if that's right. Um, Obviously there was a major global event during those 4 or 5 years following that. There was a pandemic, which I talk about on the show a lot, is that the pandemic is not unique in that every single person in the entire world experienced it, but we all had um, different experiences and different situations with the pandemic. So just business wise, you were starting this up. You talk about having 7 or 8 different teams, groups and groups of people. How did that just change in an instant going into the spring of 2020?
Well, so we actually started in 2021. So
Okay.
right after the car accident, I installed cabinets and not utilities, vanities. I installed cabinets and vanities in houses for the Chesapeake Bay Cabinet Company.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
that's because I didn't want anything to do with baseball. I was
Yeah.
mad at the world. Again, I was in a very depressive state, but I was absolutely miserable. And my mom and my wife, like, sat me down one night because they like my wife said we are going to dinner at my mom's house, and I was
Yeah.
like, why? That's weird. We don't do that. She's like, just come on. She's gonna make us food. So we go there, and they were like, we want you to start giving baseball lessons. And I was like, why? And like I was like, I don't like I like kids.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I don't like kids. Like I was just in an impressive state. I don't want to deal with kids. And they were like, we think you'll like it. Every time you watch a baseball movie, you start crying. Like just do something with baseball. So that's when my mom was like, I'm gonna clear out the trees behind the house and then build your building with, with the selling money that like because it had just came in.
Yeah.
Apparently they had been talking about it for months behind my back.
Huh.
So, but so to just everybody out there, anybody that trains with me or has trained with me or likes me, thank my wife and my mom, not me, because it wasn't gonna happen without them. Um, but no, yeah, they kind of got everything started. So it was actually right after the pandemic. So I wish I could give you better feedback, but that's the truth. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, I appreciate the honesty and it's interesting here that that sort of story. Looking now at 2025, maybe 4 years later, what purpose do you think that you're able to serve and your facility is able to serve in the greater Richmond area? Just generally, what do you do?
Yeah, yeah. So essentially, um, right now we are we mainly do pitching.
Uh-huh.
you know I'm really big on arm care, taking care of your shoulder, uh making sure that you're properly warmed up. uh in the reality of things, we are a velocity training company. A lot of people think those are gimmicks and
Yeah.
whatnot, but I don't just say, hey, go throw a weighted baseball. I do a ton of tests. We have to do an assessment first. So I use a dynamometer. And for people who don't know what a dynamometer is, it tests your shoulder, or it tests your strength when you press into it. So we test your shoulder, internal, external, scaption, and then grip strength. Essentially, what controls the arm. So
Hmm.
this is like your accelerator. This is your brakes. This one's kind of like how you can control your arm as it moves, and then the grip strength helps with protecting the elbow,
Got
right?
it.
And then how well you're able to get through the ball. We also do a full mobility assessment. So you might have perfect mechanics, but if you're not mobile, if you're not agile, one, you're too tight, you might get hurt.
Yep.
Two, it might limit your range of motion, which is why you can't throw as hard. We
Uh-huh.
do a slow motion video analysis of your with a camera that does about 1,000 frames per second.
Wow.
And I look through your entire mechanics and say, okay, this goes before this, before this. This is what's happening, so that I can come up with drills that are going to be specific to each player individually. Because like just because Johnny and Jimmy come in at the same time doesn't mean they do the same thing.
Right.
They're not going to get an equal amount of benefit because Johnny might be doing this, but Jimmy does that just fine and needs to be doing this other
Hmm.
thing instead, right?
Yep.
So, and then we do the arm care based off of those numbers. So essentially, if my accelerators, so let's just call this my engine, is
Uh-huh.
like a Corvette engine, but I have Prius brakes, I can't rev up the engine and expect to stop on time without crashing into something, which
Yeah.
essentially would lead to like an injury.
Yes.
On the reverse side of that, if I have Prius engine and Corvette brakes, okay, I'm never going to get hurt, but I'm never going to be able to ramp it up. So it helps me create a shoulder program to help get their arm in shape to maximize everything, but keep it where, like, by testing that, we can see these numbers go up. This one stay the same or go up a little bit as well,
Hmm.
as long as your brakes are about 2% or 2 to 6% stronger than your accelerators, you're in a
Yeah.
very good position to throw at your maximum velocity with the least amount of risk. Now, I didn't say don't get hurt. Like you still have a potential to get hurt. Everyone
Uh-huh.
does. Throwing is the worst thing you could do for your arm. However, we can try to minimize risk as best as possible.
Uh-huh.
You
So
know,
looking a little bit ahead, and we talked about this before we started recording, what's sort of on the horizon for Kyle and for the backyard baseball lab?
so we are, and we're in this facility now. In October, my lease will be up. We are moving one exit down, so we'll be in Colonial Heights. Again, it's one exit down, so probably 5 minutes further, like down the road.
Yeah. And
we
why
are
move besides the lease being up? Is that facility an upgrade?
so sort of. I would own the other facility versus renting this one.
Gotcha.
And so right now it's my mom's office.
Yeah.
It's a 1-story on one side, and it makes like an L, and this side's 2-story. So I'll have a gym downstairs, full gym. Upstairs we'll have recovery and physical therapy access,
That's really
as well
cool.
as 2 ice baths, an infrared sauna.
Wow.
Really try to get it so it's like you can do what your body needs to recover and be ready to go. And then this big, like the long part of the L right here, is going to be the pitching area. We're going to get force plate mounds. We're getting Kinetrax for people who know what that is.
Yeah.
If you don't know what that is, if you've ever seen Driveline where they have the little skeleton man, it's essentially motion capture, but it literally tells me how much stress you're putting on your elbow, on your shoulder, how much force you can drive your back leg with, how fast everything's rotating. It's extremely advanced technology. It's awesome. But we're
That's
gonna, like I
awesome.
said, we're gonna have the force plate mounds. We have our TrackMan, so we'll be able to see how pitches are spinning. And then, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, sorry, another person called me. Let's see how pitches are spinning. We just bought an Edgertronic camera, so that's about to come in a couple days. If you don't know what that is, if you ever see the video where you can see the ball coming out of the hand super slow, so we can say like, hey, look, you're cutting under the ball, you're not getting through the ball the right way, really sharpen up pitches. Like, we really are going to be a lab. Now, that being said, because we're not in my mom's backyard anymore, we are actually looking at a name change. So we're trying to figure out what the best option for that is. But we want to be known more for our performance training that specializes in pitching versus a baseball facility that also has a gym.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So we really want to be known as a strength and conditioning performance company that specializes in pitching. Right. Because the biggest thing I've noticed is the kids, you see these D1 kids versus these D3 kids or kids that aren't making it, is size and strength.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you'll have these kids that are super long and lanky, but end up getting hurt, but they have no muscle. They have nothing to do this. So it's all just getting all the stress just put on their ligaments and tendons, and boom, they're done. Yeah. Right. So like that, again, that one player that I was telling you about, I told him on this offseason, I was like, I need you to gain 20 pounds. You're 155 and you're topping out at 89. 155. That's so skinny. Yeah. Right. And just so you know, he's also like 6 foot tall. So it's not like he's like a short, stocky dude. Like, and he came back to me, said he was in the gym. I see it in the upper body, not so much in the lower body. I wish it had been more lower body too, but he's 175 now. So he did what I asked. Right. Wow. And he hit 90 the other day on the mound. So I'm super excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think he has a really bright future ahead of him if he stays on track.
That's awesome. Couple more before we wrap up.
Of
years,
course.
Years removed from your accident, I want to just know how you're doing physically and mentally after that horrific car crash.
Yeah. So back then it was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible. Would do anything to go back and not get that ice cream.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I just keep getting called. Would do anything to not have gone that night. Because the thing is too, like, I'm very strict about my diet. And it was just something, because like my birthday, it was a week before my birthday.
Oh, wow.
So like I had some friends like that were coming over, and we were going to get, have some ice cream. And like, that was when we were going to celebrate, because I was going to be gone the next week to throw. And like, but I never cheat on my diet. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a thought in my mind. In fact, one time I slapped a grape out of my mom's hand because it was on my plate and she tried to eat it. And I was like, those are my calories. And my mom was like, if you ever touch me again. I was like, I'm sorry. I won't ever do it again. I'm sorry. But that being said, that was like the worst thing that ever happened to me. But after all these years
Hmm.
and meeting all these people that I've been able to work with and help, and that, some of them might not even remember who I am, and
Yeah.
that's fine. They're off doing their thing. They're being successful. The one of the first kids I worked with is like one of the main guys, either the one or the two at JMU right now, lefty throwing 95.
Yeah.
He's doing his thing, and I love it. Um, you know, like this was, I feel like, what it was supposed to happen.
Huh.
You know,
Yeah.
like I wish I could play. I love playing. I love competing. I hate losing, but kind of seeing them be successful, and I don't know, it's just like I get to go on this journey again and
Yeah.
again and again versus just the one time that I did it.
And it gives you fulfillment and you still get to work that competitive edge.
Yeah, and if I hit 85, maybe I will train a little bit and try out for the Savannah Bananas or something. I don't know.
You have that dancing background. How about that?
That's exactly right. I can do a backflip. Wow.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Let's go through a couple rapid fire questions, then we'll close it out. First rapid fire question, first thing that comes to mind. Um, who was your favorite athlete growing up?
Cal Ripken, easy.
That's awesome. If
Yeah.
they made a movie about your life, which it would be make a great movie and someone should call up Hollywood, who would you want to play you? Ideally, best actor.
I love personally Tom Hardy, just from the Soul movie. What's it called? Warrior. Like
Okay.
that like intensity. I love that.
Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I want 100 duck-sized horses.
Okay, you'd rather take the quantity than the quality.
Yeah, I would kick every horse.
If you could only listen to one artist or band for the rest of your life, who would it be?
Ooh. All right. Um, it would have to be Stevie Nicks.
Awesome. Good
Yeah.
answer. What's the app that you use the most on your phone?
Uh, Probably Primus bank account to make sure money's coming in so we can stay open. No, no, no. Actual app. Probably like honestly just Messenger, man. I get text messages all the time.
Yeah, busy man. All right, we
Yeah.
we went through this a lot on the show already, but I wrap up the show and every show that I do with the same question, and you can make it about baseball, make it about life experiences, about your business, whatever you want it to be, about your relationship. What is one piece of advice that someone has given you and you would like to share with the world?
Yeah. I ooh, this is a good one. Let me give me one half a second. I know it's a rapid fire thing, but I want to make sure it's good
No, take
advice.
your time. Take plenty of time.
I really do believe like you are not what you do, you
Hmm.
are how you act.
Okay.
Like realistically, like that was some advice I wish I would have had back in the day.
Hmm.
You know, um, I think I would have been a better person.
Right.
You
And
know,
that's what they kind of showed in the CBS interview. You're not Kyle, the baseball player. You're Kyle who played baseball.
exactly, exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. Kyle, I really appreciate it. I learned a lot about mentality, about baseball, about your life, about what it's like to be in the minor leagues, about coming back from a traumatic accident in this hour and a half hour episode. So I really, really appreciate you. And it's fun to see the kind of connection that the Backyard Baseball Lab and, well, I guess not the Backyard Baseball Lab for much longer and H3 have and are building consistently. So really appreciate you taking some time with me today. It's been a lot of fun.
No, perfect, man. I appreciate you. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hopefully I'll see you around sometime.
Sounds good.
All right, that was my conversation with Kyle Bogese. I really hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun for me personally, getting to know him a little bit, getting to know his story, what it takes to become a great person and a great baseball player, and how those two things interact both physically and mentally. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like or a comment saying that you liked it. If you have a question, feel free to drop that in the comments as well. And if you're listening on podcast, feel free to leave a review, 5 stars or 4 stars if you so choose. But obviously, we prefer 5 stars. It really helps us out a lot. Drop a comment, and if you're on Spotify, give us a follow and a rating as well. So thanks to everybody for tuning in to Unique Pathways. As always, please subscribe, follow, rate, and review, as I just mentioned, so you don't miss any of our great episodes. Once again, if you enjoyed this one, go back and check out some of the great episodes that we have starting season 3 a couple of weeks ago. And of course, if you enjoyed those as well and you run out, season 2 and season 1, they are both great as well. So stay tuned for some more great episodes. I'm, of course, your host, Ben Rekosh. Thanks to everybody for making this happen, including Jeff Burton, Andy Huffmeyer, and the rest of the H3 Sports Board. So thanks so much for tuning in to Unique Pathways this week, and we'll be back soon with some more great conversations.
Unique Pathways is sponsored by Piedmont Realty Holdings, building better together. Plethora Landscaping and Hardscaping Services. ECS Prosthetics, we come to you. Jeff Burton Consulting, charting your path to a successful outcome. Major League Mindset, results on and off the field. Blue Sky Property Management, own your experience. BSN Sports, the heart of the game.